When I first started working in the program's office nearly a decade ago, I was just puzzled by why we were using such an antiquated piece of software. I quickly came to realize that this software was not at all antiquated, but in fact was a very living document maintained on almost a daily basis by this steadfast creator, Sahadev. When he called me a couple years ago and said that it was time for him to retire and that we would be transitioning off of Reg, my 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 mind just spun trying to imagine how that would even be possible given all of the intricacies that this program embodied and all of the ways and fingers in which all the different facets of our organization and the ways that Reg supported it. And it's a fantastically complicated piece of software if anyone's ever had the pleasure to operate it. So as we end our transition process away from Reg and onto Retreat Guru, we'd like to take a minute to honor Sahadev and his 43 years of maintaining this this backbone of our organization. And I believe Jayanti would like to start us off with a memory.
Well, I wasn't there when Reg was born, but I was the prime user of it for about 12 years in the program's office. And I don't know anything about programming. All I know is this is broken, it don't work, and we need some fix. So this guy was always available. He not only built it, now I know something about building, he not only built it, but it's in the air. It's not, I couldn't see it except this screen, which usually worked. And when it didn't, you just call him or you email him or something like that. And he'd fix it. And if we'd come up with some new thing, like we really need some way to figure out what to do with left-handed children of sponsors who want to come for dinner. What would be the charge, right? He'd build something for it, this crazy thing. So it must have looked like a delta, maybe, a delta of a river, going everywhere. And everything made sense and everything worked, except when it didn't, then we'd call him. And he kept saying he wanted to retire. This was toward the end of my time in the program's office. I was in there with Brajesh, of course, and Barnaby and others. He wanted to retire. This has got to be, something new's got to be here. I'm not going to stay here forever. Well, it seems like he did stay forever because it wasn't until very recently that we got something new. And I don't know how to work that one. I used to know how to work the other one, and I don't need to. But the people that do need to use it seem to be pretty pleased with it. Only once in a while I hear, it doesn't work as well as Reg.
Quincy.
Hey everybody. It's a little bittersweet being up here to give this tribute. Because on the one hand, I definitely feel a void here that Brajesh is not here to fully pay tribute to full scope of 40 years of friendship and contribution to this community. But at the same time, I do feel really blessed, particularly to be able to offer this body perspective to really just how monumental the last 5 years of Sahadev's contribution has been. It's unique for me having grown up here at the center and coming to work later in guest services, because I really personally witnessed so much transformation in so many of Sahadev's sort of fellow institutional giants long before I met him. I graduated from the school in 2012, so I had my last values trip with SN 7 years before I really met Sahadev. Got to do my last Ramayana with Sampad about 7 years before I met Sahadev. Saw Sharda retire from the school, at least 7 years. So when I landed in the office, summer of 2019, we had a full team. We had a director, we had an office manager, and I came in as a third string, just front desk admin. And then short time after the pandemic arrived, and suddenly just 40 plus years of institutional knowledge that we had as a community seemed like chicken scratch, cave art for trying to chart our way forward. We had so much personnel departure in that first 2 years of the pandemic. We really had no idea even to like recollect where we'd been, and much less of how to chart a path forward. And in all that uncertainty, there was Sahadev and Reg. Um, he not only, through Reg, the work he'd done, not only provided that, only real Rosetta Stone that we had to figure out where we'd been, but he was so accommodating and so selfless in also providing a blank canvas for us to chart a path forward. He built a whole sub program for the mountain experience to come. He went through a whole transition of accommodating Reg through a whole different pay system, a whole different way to move, have program links from Reg on the website, a whole new website. And just the contribution over the last 5 years has been incredible. And I know just, the individual memories within, 40 years, there's a lot that can be lost to time, but I hope that you do have a vivid pride in at least these last 5 years, because the guiding light you provided was absolutely singular.
Thanks, Quincy. That was beautiful. Savita, I believe you have something to present.
I have something very, very special to present to you. However, Stephanie wants to say something first. Quick.
I just wanted to connect the dot, not so much of having worked with Reg through the years, although I had, but just also wanted to shout out Sahadev and the last little steps of doing the migration to Retreat Guru, because it was quite a task. And the data import of taking all of the relationships and all of the information that we had, they encouraged kind of like, well, you don't need to have those, but we had 37 years of information and relationship that we wanted to keep. So yeah, just the process of doing that is a huge, huge lift. We just had to do a lot of translation, and just to say that the data import, when we went to do it, they said this was the cleanest one they'd ever had. It was the only one that they had without mistakes or issues. And we said, well, not every center. He said, this has never happened with other centers. And we said, well, not every center has a Sahadev, so that's probably why. So yeah. It's just hard to, to have that person that actually carries it on to the next thing, I think is also really, really valuable. And so, yeah, thank you for being part of that and going through it with us, that little messy process, but we did it. So thank you.
Come on up here, Sahadev. Come on. Come on. The living proof. 43 years. That's a long time. I've only gotten 20 of them. So we have a gift for you. Sort of. Actually, that's pretty close. Your very own lanyard. And you are allowed to take this home. So I'm going to read what's on it, and then you can put it on. And then you're really legit now. On the front of the lanyard, it says, "A lifetime key to Mount Madonna, presented in gratitude to John Sahadev Bjornstad, the eternal karma yogi of MMC's Reg software." On the back, room number, the entire Mount Madonna kingdom. You've got your own gate code, JB 108. We thank you for 40 years of service. And he gets to say something.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I do have some thoughts to share. I see many people here that have been around a long time. Everyone has contributed to the development of the fellowship. I played a role, a fairly unique role in the software, but everyone has contributed. So I thank you for the appreciation today, but everyone should be appreciated as well. How many of you are subscribed to the Daily Sutra from Babaji? You can go to akash.mountmadonna.org/sutra and sign up. You get a daily sutra from Babaji at 4 o'clock in the morning. That is still part of Reg. That will continue. On Reg is also the talks with Babaji. I think these were gathered by Pratibha over many years, and different topics published in gateways. Those were taken and put on online, and you can do searches for the incredible wisdom that he offered us. So Reg is not dead. It lives on in the Daily Sutra of Babaji and those talks with Babaji. One of the, I did a search. You can search those Daily Sutras as well. So I did a search for something and I found this. Question: what is the best way to accept praise? Answer: don't listen to it. If you are accepting it, then it creates pride and self-importance. Don't listen means don't dwell on it. Yeah. So thank you for the praise. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I do have a few thoughts to share. It's been a long road for all of us, but my software for the fellowship began in 1981. I worked with Manohar Bielefeld, who at that time was living in town in the same place where Sadanand and Kranti were living, right? Yeah. So it began with the mailing list software. Reg came maybe 6-7 years later in 1988. At that time, there were no cell phones, no email addresses, no internet, no websites, no online anything. So things have changed a lot. Yeah. It's been a long road. But I feel like it's been a blessing for me as well. It's been a project that has helped me develop and cultivate the practice of selfless service over a long period of time. And that's been a blessing for me because it has manifested in other areas of my life. Yeah. Reg was not just my effort. was very much of a team effort, actually. Burjesh, you remember Burjesh? I am missing Burjesh very much. Quincy, you mentioned that as well. Burjesh and I worked together for many, many years to develop Reg. And I took a look online today, and there were 336 users of Reg. So that's a lot of people. All the people that used Reg contributed to it by testing it, by suggesting design features, like you mentioned, Jayanti, by documenting it, by using it. I grabbed a few names. I'll just read through many of them just to maybe spark some memories for you. Sukhdev, Barnaby, Anne, Anurag, Anushri, Pili, Jayanti, Tesla, Yamuna, Savita, Stephanie, Arpita, Vishwamitra, Leela, Brett, Devendra, Manohar, Adrian, Jaya, Mohan, Shama, Ariana, Akhilesh, Bhakti, Sarah, Gyaneshwar, remember Gyaneshwar? Jamal, Kalyani, remember Kalyani? Rashmi, Sumitra. These were all, oh, Arpita, did I get Arpita, Brett, Jaya. So many users of Reg. It was very much of a team effort. The last one I have here is Quincy, who is the carrying forward from Reg to Retreat Guru. Not an easy task, but he's done it. So let's see, what else did I have to, I don't want to dwell on it too much here. So software and selfless service go pretty well together, actually. For one thing, I could work alone. I didn't have to deal with the group energies, or I didn't have to live on the land and be in community with the difficulties of that. The main being that I interacted with was the computer, who did exactly what I told it to do. The other advantage of software is software engineers are generally overpaid. So I didn't need to be paid very much for the software. In fact, I wasn't paid very much for the software I did here. And so I was overpaid. So I was able to live well and continue my selfless service. In fact, I could work anywhere in the world. When Reg was rewritten in 2007 to 2009, it was installed, and then I took a trip. I went to Europe. I had a layover in Vienna, and I checked my email in Vienna. There was a problem. So I logged in and fixed it from Vienna on my way to Croatia. And I realized I'm never getting away from this. Yeah. And so, yep, that's enough.